Unit 3. Ambi EPI HYP/HYPO thermo poly prim homo dis Latin borrowings. AMBI means on both sides or around. Ambi comes from Latin. Most of us are either right-handed or left-handed, but ambidextrous people can use their right and left hand equally well. Ambiguous, 1. Doubtful or uncertain, especially from being obscure or indistinct. 2. Unclear in meaning because of being understandable in more than one way. Successful politicians are good at giving ambiguous answers to questions on difficult issues. Ambiguous comes from the Latin verb ambigere, to be undecided. When we say someone's eyes are an ambiguous color, we mean we cannot decide which color they are, blue or green. The ambiguity of the Mona Lisa's smile makes us wonder what she's thinking about. An ambiguous order is one that can be taken in at least two ways. On the other hand, the order "shut up" may be rude, but at least it's unambiguous. Ambient, existing or present on all sides. The ambient lighting in the restaurant was low, and there was a bright candle at each table. Ambient light is the light that fills an area or surrounds something that's being viewed, like a television screen or a painting. Scientists sometimes refer to the ambient temperature, the temperature of the surrounding air. Ambient music is the term used today for atmospheric background music, usually intended for relaxation or meditation. The candlelit restaurant in the example sentence is probably trying for a romantic ambience or atmosphere. Ambivalent, 1. Holding opposite feelings and attitudes at the same time towards someone or something. 2. Continually wavering between opposites or alternative courses of action. He was ambivalent about the trip. He badly wanted to travel, but hated to miss the summer activities at home. Ambivalent is a fairly new word, less than 100 years old, and, not surprisingly, it was first used by psychologists. Since being ambivalent means simply having mixed feelings about some question or issue, some of us spend most of our lives in a state of ambivalence. We might feel ambivalence about accepting a high-paying job that requires us to work long hours, about lending money to someone we like but don't know well, or about ordering a tutti frutti chocolate banana sundae El Supremo after we've been starving on a strict diet for weeks. Ambit, the range or limit covered by something, such as a law. The treatment of farm animals generally falls outside the ambit of animal cruelty laws in the U.S. Ambit is a rather formal term, often used by lawyers, as in, with this new legislation, tobacco now falls within the ambit of FDA regulation. It almost always refers to something abstract rather than an actual physical range. So, for example, an immigrant might live completely within the ambit of her immigrant community until she started college, where she might find herself in a much broader social ambit. Most of the Latin American colonies were established by Spain, but in the 19th century, as the U.S. became stronger and Spain became weaker, they began to enter the ambit of U.S. power. EPI is a Greek prefix that may mean various things, but usually on, over, or attached to. So an earthquake's epicenter is the ground right over the center of the quake. And your epidermis is the outer layer of your skin, on top of the inner dermis. Epilogue, the final section after the main part of a book or play. Her editor told her the book really needed an epilogue, to tell where each member of the family is today. From its Greek roots, epilogue means basically words attached, at the end. An epilogue often somehow wraps up a story's action, as in the one for a famous Shakespeare play that ends, for never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. In non-fiction books, we now often use the term afterword instead of epilogue, just as we now generally use forward instead of prologue, see LOG. Movies also often have a kind of epilogue, maybe a scene after the exciting climax, when the surviving lovers meet in a cafe to talk about their future. The epilogue of a musical composition, after all the drama is over, is called the coda, Italian for tail. Epiphyte, a plant that obtains its nutrients from the air and the rain and usually grows on another plant for support. The strangler fig begins life as an epiphyte on a tree branch, drops its tendrils to take root in the ground around the trunk, and slowly covers and strangles the tree to death. Epiphytic plants are sometimes known as air plants because they seemingly survive on thin air. They rely on their host plants merely for physical support, not nourishment. Tropical epiphytes include orchids, ferns, and members of the pineapple family. To a newcomer in the tropical rainforest, the first sight of a great tree with large epiphytes hanging from every level can be eerie and astonishing. Familiar epiphytes of the temperate zone include lichens, mosses, and algae, which may grow on rocks or water without touching the soil. Epitaph: an inscription on a grave or tomb in memory of the one buried there. The great architect Christopher Wren designed London's majestic St. Paul's Cathedral. The site of his tomb and epitaph, see Monumentum Requiris Circumspice. If you seek my monument, look around you. Epitaph includes the root from the Greek word tapos, tomb or funeral. Traditionally, epitaph refers to a tombstone inscription, but it can also refer to brief memorial statements that resemble such inscriptions. One of the most famous is Henry Lee's epitaph for George Washington, first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. Epithet: 1. A descriptive word or phrase occurring with or in place of the name of a person or thing. 2. An insulting or demeaning word or phrase. King Richard I of England earned the epithet lion-hearted, while his brother, King John, was given the epithet Lackland. From its Greek roots, epithet would mean something put on or added. Sometimes the added name follows a given name, as in Eric the Red or Billy the Kid. In other cases, the epithet precedes the personal name, as in Mahatma, Greatsouled, Gandhi. In still others, it's used in place of the actual name, as in El Greco, the Greek, or El Cid, the Lord. In its other common meaning, an epithet is a mocking or insulting name, like Lackland in the example sentence. When enemies are said to be hurling epithets at each other, it means they're exchanging angry insults.